Hello, I'm Hannah, Scribe Support Accountant. Welcome to this quick video to showcase our new feature, which is forecasting. This has now been added to your Scribe account, so you will notice that under the summary reports, you'll now see two new reports, the monthly report and the forecasting report. So the idea of forecasting is that it will now allow you to forecast within Scribe. So rather than having to extract the actual data that you've got in Scribe and then doing some forecasting in spreadsheets, you can do that within Scribe by putting some information against all the cost codes to produce the reports. So if firstly we have a look at the monthly report, this is important because it can also be used just purely as a monthly report to see a breakdown of your actuals month on month. See, we've got this show forecast option here, but if we don't tick it, what we're going to see is the actual so far in the current financial year against our codes. So all set up with our cost centres and our cost codes below. The budget shows here, and then we've got each individual month's expenditure appearing in here as well. So that's nice to see. So this can therefore be used as a standalone report to give us a breakdown of our actual spend month on month, but also we can look ahead to forecast as well. So as you can see, my end of the year, I've not got any data in. So we're currently in November, so I've got some figures in here, but I've got nothing in for the last 4 months of the financial year. So this is where I want to forecast to help me predict my total expected expenditure for the end of the year, to understand my end position, which will help me make decisions on spend for this year and things I need to be mindful of, but also looking ahead to assist in budgets as well. So in order to see some forecasting figures in these last 4 months, I need to set some information against the cost codes that are broken down here. So we need to do that under the setup menu against the cost codes here. So here they are all listed. And if we click this new button, Edit Forecastings, up on the top right hand side, you see the screen changes slightly and we've now got a forecasting type against each code. So this does this so that we don't have to go into each individual code to edit this, although you can do. So if at a later date you just want to edit one element against one code, you can do it individually, or you can use this option to view it quickly and easily in this one list. So against each code in the list, there's a forecasting type, and within each drop down we've got 4 options. So we could choose no forecasting. That means nothing will show in the months that we choose to forecast from. So this might be relevant. If the spend is complete and you didn't expect nothing more to go through, then you can choose no forecasting and nothing will show for the remaining months of the financial year. Then you've got an option here to use the budget. So that will simply take the budget figures as you've entered for the remaining months of the year. So if you flex the budget and put in a different amount for differing months, for example, those appropriate values for the appropriate months will show. If you haven't flexed it, then what you'll see in each budgeted month remaining is a 12th of the annual budget that you entered. So if your spend is in line with budget and you expect that to continue, then you can simply choose this use budget option. Then we've got year to date. So this is relevant if what you've spent so far you expect to continue in a similar vein. So you may be over budget or under budget, but actually it's quite a standard spend that you expect to continue. And what Scribe will do is take the year-to-date figures, divide it by the number of months that you've had so far, and use that figure for the remaining months of the financial year. So as I say, if the spend is expected to continue in a similar vein as it has already, then year-to-date would be the option appropriate here. And then finally, you've got this monthly amount here. Now that produces 2 fields, one for receipts and one for payments. And this is if what's happening is outside the norm. So it's not following the budget. It's not following the year-to-date position. You're still expecting spend to go through, but actually now you want to put your own figure in. So maybe you know the costs are going to rise at the end of the year. They're not in line with the budget and they're not in line with what's already spent. So you can reflect that. So generally for your code, you'll have one or the other as a choice, either a receipt entry or a payment entry. And in here, for my website costs, I'm expecting to spend £50 a month for the remaining months of the year. So I've entered that in as a payment figure. If you did have a code that had both receipts and payments going to it, then you could put a figure in for each. And it's just a case of working through and assigning a forecasting type to each of the codes in the list. Bit of a thought process there as against what's the most appropriate option, and whether you want to sit with the budget, the year-to-date figures, etc. So go through all of that, set them in here, and as we've looked at. Once done, scroll back up to the top and select Save Forecastings in the right-hand corner. it'll come with a little message in green to tell you that they've been updated successfully. And now we can go back to look at the reporting. So if we go back to the monthly report here, this time we can select to show the forecast. So we want to see what figures we've put in from what we've just set in the code. It's also important to make sure you select the month from here as well. So this is where the first month where you want to forecast from. So in this example, I've got all my data into Scribe for October. It's reconciled. I'm happy with it. I therefore want to forecast from November. I may have some data in November, but it might not all be in or checked, etc. So therefore I want to show forecast figures from there. So you can then click View Report to load the report that will look like this. And this time, as you can see, we've got figures in for the entire year itself. So the actual figures we're seeing are April till October. So this is coming directly from the information that has been entered into Scribe from the payments and receipt entries in there. And then from November to March, this is picking up what I've set in the forecasting. So for example, we looked at website where I'd set £50 a month and we're seeing that information. So this will then give us a total. So this is our total of where we expect to end as at year end, what we expect to have spent against each code. It'll also give us a variance against our current budget. So this is our current year budget and the variance to the total expected end of year position. And as I said, this is helpful then for understanding what codes might go overspent, therefore what needs to be done. Does the budget need to move around? We need to think about payments reducing some areas, etc. And also in terms of if we want to look at, say, putting some money aside for reserves, etc. The other report associated with forecasting is this forecasting report here. So again, we'd select the month from, in this example, we're using November. So View Report like this, and then we get this report loaded here. So those of you who are familiar with Scribe will recognise this as very similar to the summary report. It's based on that report, but with an additional column for the forecast. So again, we're seeing actual figures in here as per the months we've set. So April to October, and then we're seeing the forecast, which is November to March, and these are the totals. So whereas in the monthly report we were seeing it broken down, this is giving us in totals so we can see the overall picture in a more summarised form here. So again, as per the summary report, we get the total in here. So this is actual plus the forecast this time. So this is what we're comparing to the budget, and we've got our variance. So again, it's showing us the same information as in the monthly report, just in a slightly different format, a summarised report, not breaking it down month on month. But both of these reports are really useful for viewing the end of year position, and then that will obviously enable you to look ahead to setting future budgets, considering what budget areas therefore might need to be increased for future, looking at what's going to happen, what you expect to happen for the remainder of the year. If you decide at any point you want to change any of the forecasting settings, you can go back to your cost code in here. If you want to just edit a single code, you can click into it. So rather than using the edit forecastings in the top corner, you can just click into the code itself. So I'm back into website costs where I earlier set £50. If I decided actually I wanted to see 55, I can update that in here. I've got the forecasting type, I've got the value in here, and I can just update it. And then when I run the report again, I will see that figure updating in here. And again, when you run the forecasting reports, you can move through the month. So as your actuals build up, you could rerun your forecasting reports, do any forecasting from the next month, which will continually give you an accurate picture of what you expect to happen, but enabling you to move forward as more actuals are coming in and being entered into Scribe. I hope that's a good overview of forecasting and how it works. But if you do have any questions or need any help with anything, do let us know. Thanks a lot.